Everyone, my name is Graham Smith and I'm the chairman of the Arabian Horse Society of Australia's Judges and Officials Committee. As part of our commitment to assist in the growth and development of our judges, we've been conducting a series of seminar talks with prominent judges and breeders, both in Australia as well as internationally. We are extremely happy to be able to have Christine Jamar from Jardin Maradims in Belgium participate in this seminar. We will be discussing a range of matters with Christine around both judging and breeding. Christine needs little introduction to those in the Arabian horse community. She operates the world-class and most beautiful Jardin Arabian stud in Baarle, Belgium, which was founded back in 1978. Christine started out humbly with 1 acre of land and 2 brood mares, but now has a world-class facility which is recognised globally. Jardin was Belgium's first AI centre in 1990 and perhaps the first in Europe. The stud has owned and produced multiple world champions, advises many studs worldwide on breeding programs, and is a trusted advisor to many high-profile breeders. Christine also provides opportunities for the training and educating of judges and individuals in the Arabian industry by conducting annual educational seminars at her farm. Similarly, she conducts 2 open days per year, COVID rules permitting, to allow for the public presentation of stallions standing at her farm. For many, a visit to Jardin is a highlight of the European show calendar. For many years, Christine has been a show organiser as well, successfully running one of Europe's most prestigious title shows, the European Championships. This year, she has embarked on another challenge, on a new challenge to start a new show, the Centaur Diamond Trophy Show, which is held in Belgium. This show was a great success for a first show, and I'm sure it will continue to grow. Christine is a highly regarded, internationally qualified judge with the Cajo as well, and has judged at the world's most prestigious shows, including throughout Europe, Scandinavia, the Middle East, and the Americas. She has a reputation of being extremely knowledgeable, fair, and a consistent judge. There's probably a lot more I should say about you, Christine, but for now, please accept our warm welcome and our thanks for joining us here in Australia for this interview.
Thank you very much, Graham. That was a very nice presentation. Sorry, of myself. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No, well, it's all true. You have an amazing CV, and we're very honoured to have you here tonight to talk about some judging issues, but also about your breeding program as well. So we're very lucky to have the 2 aspects that we can talk about. First, we might start with some questions for around judging. As a judge, you've earned and you continue to maintain the respect of your fellow judges and various show organising committees throughout the world. I guess I wanted to ask, what do you think some of the personal attributes are or skills that a judge needs or that they should continue to develop during their career? And in particular for our young judges in Australia that are just starting out.
Very important is just to go to follow as many seminars as you can, talk to as many judges and ask to be like a shadow judge or information to get it. I have been a shadow judge for 10 years with the warm bloods, and this was for me very, very important as I understood how a hock works, how a high knee works, everything for show jumping, and it's very useful to use it for the Arabian horses because we are not breeding statues, and I'm very worried that those days people just think about statues. The horse must be a horse and stay a horse and must be very functional. This is for me very important. So I suggest the young judges just to listen a lot, go to shows, go also to ridden classes, go to the sport events, what has nothing to do with Arabian horses, and ask judges as much as you can to get as much information. What's very important for the future and also for at that moment.
Yeah, good points, Christine. We're lucky in Australia that we have lots of different breeds of horses like you do in Europe, obviously, but that's something we do encourage with our judges, that they try to become multi-skilled, that they also become judges on other panels as well. But the points you make are terrific as well. Look, the next question, I guess, it touches on what you've just talked about. It's how a judge or even a breeder develops a good eye for a horse. When you're in a show ring in Europe or around the world, you have to quickly evaluate maybe 10, 15 horses in front of you. How would you, or what tips or practices would you suggest for a young judge how to develop a good eye for a horse, and also from a breeding aspect as well for breeders?
What I did in the past was, before judging, was sitting on a tribune and always check the scores of the judges with what I was seeing and what I was thinking. And yeah, as much information as you can get, maybe also going once to the collecting ring if you are not sure, to see closer. And yes, just be occupied by watching the horses and not with gathering the whole time. It's sometimes difficult on a horse show. But watch the horses, look what the judges do, look what that judge do, the points. It's very important to get the information, and afterwards maybe to see it faster, what exactly is wrong with the leg or not.
Yeah.
For example, that's the most difficult, is to see the legs from far away, I suggest for the people. But then you can go to the collecting ring and then you can go and see. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think we rush our judges perhaps too much to put a score on a horse? Do you think they should, first of all, take their time and learn how to judge comparatively before they worry too much about learning about the scorecard?
I know in your country you do it, and here we don't do it. And it's both for me is important. Of course, the comparing system, I think it's maybe more difficult for people that has been used the point system, and vice versa. People who has been using the comparing system will struggle with the point system. So when I give here seminars, I tell exactly for those legs with this not correctness, I will give that score. For this, it's less a problem for me. It's a minor problem. So I try to explain them why. But of course, when you are just watching a horse show, you just get the figures, and then you have to try to see. But that's maybe not always good without explanation.
Yeah, yeah.
But I did it, and it worked.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Christine, the next question, I guess it's about the pressures that we have as judges today. We have a global environment where you can be asked to judge in America or in Europe or in Australia or wherever. And there are many pressures placed on us. Each country has different rules or different jurisdictions, but they also have different ethics. They have ethics around the way the judges conduct themselves or the way the ring is worked or used, things like gifts, hospitality, and there are lots of cultural differences between each country. How does a young judge or a judge maintain their integrity and their respect in this global world? And can you talk about what you think a judge should do to protect themselves or to build their reputation and maintain their integrity amongst their peers and the other judges?
It's very, 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 very important that you stay always like clean, that nobody can tell you. You have to be careful with it, of course, because sometimes you can talk to somebody without knowing he will be participant. That's just a small example. But you must do your best to be not to judge clients or whatever, or people you did business with, or people that or maybe have been in your farm too many times. That this I try not to judge. That's a lot of shows I don't judge because I have important clients there, and I don't want to do this. But it's true what you're saying. You can get gifts. If it's a small gift, it's fine. Or the gift from the organization, it's fine. But I don't accept gifts or breedings or whatever from any stud farm. No one. If I want to have a breeding, I will pay it, but I will never accept it. And that's what, of course, Other people, they have the intention to give you somebody. It's their nature and it's their habits. They give something and they want to be nice. But of course, if you accept it, for Europeans, it's a different culture we have. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
We cannot accept, for example, free breeding, and because they, they do it, maybe not, or they do it well, to get something instant. But even if they don't want, people will think it, and I try to avoid that.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. Culturally, I think Australia and Europe is similar. That we, over here, we certainly don't accept gifts, and but you go to the Middle East countries, and it's part of their culture. In some cases, you can offend them if you don't accept, their friendship or a gift as such. But no, that's good advice. I think the other thing in this modern world, we've got to be careful of social media as well. Yeah. Use it as a positive tool, but be careful what we say as judges or what we do with social media on Facebook or Instagram and things like that.
I agree with you, because this is, of course, very tricky. It's the social media. And before I'm judging and I see people putting maybe some pictures on it from horses, that maybe I will judge, I'm not sure. But for sure, never like this. Don't do that, because it's no good. So, but sometimes you even don't know. But if you see it's participating in a show, you will judge, then you know. And then don't like it, even you like it, you don't do anything. And I think it's very important before the show not to be on social media. Yeah. I think that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Christine. Look, you've been lucky, Christine, that you've been able to judge at a wide range of shows all around the world in different countries, and usually at the highest level of shows. I guess it would be useful for us to hear about what you think some of the trends are, good and bad, that you've seen in the show ring, maybe over the last 10 years or longer, but some of the things that worry you and some things that you might think are good trends. But can you talk a little bit about what you see in the modern show ring today, and what a young judge might need to just be mindful of or careful about?
What worries me is a lot of stress sometimes with horses. I don't like it. That's when the horse is shaking in front of you, the horse is scared. This is not normal. It can be scared because it's maybe the first show, but if it's a horse who has been shown several times, then the horse is scared for another reason. And anyway, you see it when they're really scared because they're worried to be hidden or whatever. This worries me a lot. It's the wellness for the horses, the welfare for the horses. Really, also in the collecting, sometimes they hit the horses for nothing. And the DC is maybe the disciplinary committee, the DC call it, is maybe too late to see it or whatever. And I am always too late to take my camera to make a video of it. But this worries me the most, is to care of our horses, because we love our horses. And I don't want that they suffer just for 3 minutes. This is not worth.
Yeah.
I'm very worried about this.
Yeah.
Also, what I see that people, when they in the new shows, they put, maybe it's another question, but they put more attention at the head and less at construction of the horse and the movement. This I see that it's not good evaluating.
Yeah. That it sort of leads on to the next question, Christine, but it's also your views about what we've been doing to the Arabian horse in regard to conformation and breeding trends. Now, I'm asking you as a judge, but also now as a breeder. You look back over time and you look at a horse from 20 or 30 years ago, and it doesn't match the horses we see today. Now, some people can argue that we've improved the breed. Some people argue that perhaps we haven't. I guess I just wanted to see what you're thinking about the current horse today, the current Arabian. My benchmark has always been that an Arabian is a riding horse. I want to see beauty, agility, and a balanced horse. So I guess I wanted to get your feedback on what you're seeing in the ring and what you see around the world in other breeding programs as well. What do you think is good? What's not so good?
For me, it's indeed very important, like you were mentioning, is the balanced horse. This is for me the most important in a horse is the balance to see, because then you know that the horse can move, the horse can do everything what the horse should do, not the statue, a horse. And this is for me very important too. And sometimes we don't see it. Of course, the trainers, they can make a perfect stand up, but then when the horse walks a little bit away and you see the soft back and the loins, then it's of course not what we want in the future. And this worries me a lot. For me, it's very important to have a very correct horse, good legs, powerful movement, and good big eyes. This we're also losing a little bit, or the eyes. And the complete skeleton structure. Because if you refine the face more and more, you get generally a more refined bone structure. Also, the can bones get thinner. And the challenge for me as a breeder then, those days, is to find a balance between a good riding horse, but looks pretty. And this is the biggest challenge those days, because we have not so many stallions to use. You know, everybody uses a little bit the same stallions, but this is also a little bit the problem. But very important is that we keep a horse and not a statue.
Yeah, okay. No, that's a good point. When I was researching for this interview, Christine, I came across a press release from Akaho from way back 2017, and it talks about what they call agony breeding. And Akaho issued a directive to judges and breeders that, you know, extreme type breeding for a head should be frowned upon, and that we need to sort of maintain the principles of breeding an Arabian horse. So it surprised me somewhat that Akaho actually put out a media release, a newsletter about this in 2017, because it was worrying the executive then that we were focusing too much on the head. And I guess that goes to the point you're making when you focus on extremes, that other things go wrong with the body. If you're breeding for a head, you're going to get a longer neck, longer body, longer over the loins, and weaker all over, basically. Do you see that continuing, or is it slowing down? Do you think more breeders or more judges now are starting to focus more on the balance of the horse and good bone structure, or is it still an issue we have to keep an eye on?
I must say that here in Europe, with the older judges, they still take good care of the whole construction, because we have been taught years before, many years, 20 years ago, that we must keep a riding horse and a good horse. I am not so sure if the young judges have the same mentality as we have. But if I see that the judges from the A-list judging, they still take very good care of the complete horse and not just the head. The young judges, I don't know so much, because I didn't see them judging too much. But I hope they will try to see the beauty and the balance, as you mentioned it before, more than just the head. Because an Arabian can have almost a plain head, but if he has the expression and the big eyes, it's for me the same as a dishy head. And it's even better than a dishy head with small eyes.
Yeah.
So this is somewhere we have to find the balance. I have a skeleton here from a Arabian horse, and it was a show horse in America. Would not be for those days in Europe. It's a Banderson, was a super race horse, but would not be the show type those days. I agree. But if you see in the skeleton the opening where the air has to come in, and then you imagine additionally, then you realize that that horse cannot breathe the same way as the type we had before. I don't say we have to go backwards, but we have to find the balance between pretty and useful. And this is for me the most difficult those days.
Yeah.
In the breeding.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Christine. Good points. And it sort of goes back to one of the first questions when we talked about a new judge learning or getting an eye for a horse and looking at other breeds and learning about movement. And hopefully some of the younger judges are riding as well, you know, to feel movement is an important thing as well, not just to watch it, but to actually ride as well, I think is a good skill.
That's true. Yeah.
Christine, look, we might move on a little bit now to some breeding questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, fine. This
look,
is my favorite point.
look, I guess for those people in Australia that haven't been able to visit your stud, if you could just talk a little bit about your stud today, about the size of your stud, the number of stallions that you're serving there, or that you have AI services for, your brood mare band, and maybe your current show team. If you could just give us a bit of a flavour for what you're doing today.
At the moment, we have a stud farm. I think the total of my own horses, it's about 60 without the babies. It was 55, 60 without the babies. So it means about 20, 22 broodmares, some young stock, and then I have about 25 babies this year. I sold already some, but my intention is always to keep horses between 45 and 65. This is good to control. Of course, we get horses from outside to be bred sometimes. So in the summer, we have more horses, and we have some horses in training, about 30, 35. I don't take more, only from good friends of good clients that we do the training for. Stallions, I have in total here about 10 stallions. It's to freeze in the seam, and some stallions stay here for the breeding season. Myself, I have 3 stallions here. That's Emerald G, that's Shiraz Lafont, and then there's Madagascar for my own breed. But then we have a laboratory where we do freezing all the time and try to get all the new last specialities to get the semen as good as possible. We just tried now a new system, and it works perfectly. It's very interesting all the time to follow it up.
Yeah.
And yes, that's a little bit what we have. And 13 people working for me.
Wow, okay, that's a lot. But yeah.
Yeah,
look,
we need them.
It's very impressive. And I was saying in the introduction, if any Australians have the chance to visit you during one of your open day presentations, they're always amazing to go and see your horses, but it's just a friendly atmosphere. You can talk amongst other breeders, and you see your beautiful foals or your beautiful stallions. So for me, it's always a pleasure to go there. I love visiting there. But thank you for painting that picture as well. And just, you know, as I said, you're also obviously well renowned, but I did read that you started out with 1 acre and two mares.
Yes, and 2 horses, yes.
So if you've got the eye for the horse, if you've got the, you know, the gift, you can grow and become a world-class breeder such as you are today. So, you know, congratulations again on that.
Well, thank you.
So look, I thought I might talk about some of your breeding principles, if you wouldn't mind. And we have sort of touched on it, but do you tend to value bloodlines, and they could be bloodlines that you've known for a long time, over actually seeing the physical horse in front of you, the mare or the stallion, that's standing there in front of you? So, or do you go for a mixture of bloodlines and looking at the physical horse? And Christine, I might say that what I've seen in the last 10 or 15 years is that with social media, a lot of breeders are just buying off the internet or buying off a picture. That worries me. But, you know, what's your understanding or your take on that?
I completely agree with you, Graham. It's some people, they just buy from video or from internet without knowing the pedigrees. I mean, the pedigrees, they can read it, but they don't know how the horse looks behind. I am breeding pure Polish. I started in 78 with Russian horses. And the Russian horses, I was winning from the first. My grandfather and my over-grandfather were horse breeders, so I think I have a good eye. So with the first baby, I went to the show. I was gold champion with the 3-month-old. Between the babies, the yearlings, the 2 and 3 was. That was junior, those days. And of course, then you get like a booster to go further. That's correct.
Yeah.
But I don't know where we were. Sorry.
I was talking about bloodlines versus physically seeing the horse in front of you. You know, as a breeder, do you sometimes have to trust your judgment that you know that a bloodline will give you something, or do you tend to, is it a 50-50 mixture of looking at the horse or looking at the genetics and bloodlines?
Yeah, this is what I want to say. So the Russians, after a while, I saw when they were growing up, I was losing the type where I was looking for. Everybody has his own taste also. So, and then I went to visit Poland and I saw the horses in Janov and Michalovstadt. And the ones I liked the most was Michalov bloodlines. Also traveled to Egypt and Spain to see what I really liked. And when I saw what I really liked, then I started to study with books and pictures of the grandmothers, the over-grandmothers. And then I choose, okay, this style I like. And then I have been starting to breeding on that level, what I like, but then with good mares and correct mares. This is very important. And that's also how I choose my stallions. The dam lines are for me very important.
Yeah.
But I did pure Polish and I want to keep like a family. We have my own family, like you have Omelarab International, they have their family. There are more people that have their own. Lenita Paroy had her family. And I think it's very important that you have your own breeding program based on very good bloodlines from before. But this is interesting for me.
Yeah. And I think our viewers would be interested, Christine, before you got into your Polish bloodlines, you did start with Russian and Krabat. So you spent some time with them and then you made that decision to jump across to Polish and Polish cross horses.
Yes, I did that. After 10 years, in 1990, I changed in 1 year everything. But I had good show horses, I mean Russian horses, and in that moment, it was very popular in our area. So I could sell them, except of 2 from more Krabat horses from Dr. Houtappel that I kept. Yeah. And the rest I changed.
Yeah. Christine, you touched on before about the importance of the brood mare in your breeding program. Can I, this is a fairly general question, but can I ask you, what are the main attributes you look for in a brood mare? And what are the things that you won't breed from? What are the faults or the issues that you just won't breed from a mare?
For me, it's very important for a brood mare that she has a deep chest, that she has a good croup, hindquarter. Yeah. If the body is a little bit longer, I will not mind so much for a mare because, of course, she has to carry a baby. And all the female animals, if it's a sheep or a cow, always a little bit longer than the males. So that's okay, because if it's too short, you get troubles at the end of the pregnancy of the mare. She gets problems with, not really colics, but she doesn't feel comfortable. So this is for me very important, is can she carry a baby, and is she strong enough to have also that the baby will be a strong baby and bone structure. And I like to have, of course, a good neck, good shaped neck. In Europe, they are not so long as in America, but our bodies are shorter also, I mean, of our horses, so that's okay. And I like to have them, they have a good eye and a good character, because a mare must have a good character. Luckily, I never have issues with mares that didn't accept her babies in my life. Luckily, thanks God. And I touched the wood, because you never know. But I have 500-600 babies here, and that was all going good with the first babies. But this is for me very important. It must be a mother.
Yeah.
Good, strong mare and mother. It's very important for me.
Yeah. Okay.
And her mother must also be a good one. So you have to look at the pictures from how did she look, or how, that's also important.
Yeah.
And good movement, of course.
Okay.
We all want it.
Yes. And look, I've got the same question about when you're selecting a colt or a stallion. So again, if you can talk about some of the things that you look for in a male horse, but also some of the things that you would rule out that you just won't have in your breeding program.
A stallion for me has to be like, I will not say, I learned from Mr. Jaworowski from Michalov's that he said that the stallion, if you want to breed good fillies, should be a little bit feminine. And he is right in that point, because my Russian stallions that I used in the past, they were more masculine, but then I didn't get such a pretty fillies. So for one way you have to choose a little bit. But for me, a stallion must be very correct. The stallion should be short in the body, nice croup, very good movement. That's for me very important, and good legs. And the dam line of the sire, of the stallion, is for me the most important. Okay, also the sire, the father, but the mother is for me the most important. I always choose stallions when I like the mother, because the influence, I think, it's a little bit more than the sire line. And the stallion must have a good neck, a good attitude, also good character. It's a lot we want, of course. It's not always we get it, but what I don't like, it's the same with the mares. I don't like narrow horses, small in the chest, not the mare, not the stallion. This I don't like. I like them large in the chest, that they have a lot of capacity to move, to build up muscles, and a nice croup. For me, it's very important. It's a good long croup, so there can be a lot of muscles attached on it, and this is good for the balance.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. We all we want the perfect horse, but as you say, it's a balance. Can I just ask you? You talked about a good neck in a stallion. You're looking at a horse with muscular, a muscular neck, or the mare's feminine, finer looking feminine, but the stallion you want more muscle tone as well, more muscle definition.
Normally, generally, and you notice also, Ram, and the breeding of horses, a stallion, if a masculine stallion, he has natural always a more heavier neck. We sweat it off by training, but the nature is a thicker neck. That's the nature of a stallion. But in the show scene, we want it elegant, and we start to sweat off, we start to breed for those long necks. Maybe we do a mistake in those things, because in the past, we saw the horses and the Russian stallions also, they had a good shape of neck that they can use very well, but it was a little bit more heavy. And this is also a little bit the balance of the judging that we have. If we have such a long, thin neck, like we sometimes see in the States, but the horse cannot move at all because he is missing muscles all over the place, that's also a problem.
Yeah.
I prefer that a little bit more heavier neck, but the rest is okay, it's balanced, but that's personal.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what you see, but for me, sometimes I go to some shows and the stallions, or the colts come into the ring, and the colts are that feminine. They're narrow, they're not masculine, even as a colt. You could think you're judging a mare class, I worry sometimes where we're headed sometimes. Okay.
This is the new, that's how it happens now. I agree. And what also goes together with it is the less good quality of semen in the future.
Yeah.
If we miss the testosterone, like I say, this is a big problem for the Arabian horses at the moment also.
Yeah.
We take our stallions too feminine to get pretty fillies, but we lose the quality of the semen.
Yeah. I hear anecdotally that's a problem for a lot of studs. Christine, you also touched on the importance of temperament. You talked about a mare taking the foal, etc. But temperament when you select a stallion, or temperament when you select a mare, I think it's one of the hallmarks of why we love Arabian horses. It's their temperament. And again, just researching for this interview, I came across Emma Maxwell's talk from back in 2009, when she talked about her concern about what we were breeding in regard to temperament within our Arabian horses. And she talks about, that only, it's a pyramid, that only the top few horses have the talent to succeed. But all those other horses we breed, we need to give them a good temperament so they can find a home as a riding horse, or for a young person down the road, so to speak. Can you talk a bit about temperament and how important is that in your breeding program?
And that's one of the reasons I'm breeding pure Polish, because it's a selection of more than 200 years. And all the horses with not a good temperament were never used in the breeding program. So that's maybe the reason why my brood mares are really good mares, because all the rest, they never used it. So I still continue to have as much Polish blood as I can. But the temperament, if I see it in other breeds and I hear it, that the horses are nasty or not clever even by too much inbreeding, because this worries me also, because not only in the straight Egyptian, also like we with Marwan blood too much or whatever. And I love Marwan blood and I love the rest and I love Padom Psyche, but if you put too much, you get also a little bit crazy horses. So they are not only dangerous, but they are stupid that you can ride them, and then they become dangerous if you try to ride them. And or jumping from to see a little thing. It's of course, young horses, they see too much, but they should accept the comments of the rider. And this is the temperament. If they learn fast, if they accept your comments, if this is for me very, very important as a horse. If I walk next to a horse, the horse must trust me. It must be a good relationship as friendship. And this is very important. We are two friends who have to go together. And if I'm riding a horse, we are two friends going in the woods. We must trust each other. And I found that perfectly with Polish horses. And I am sure there are a lot of other horses, like the Spanish horses were very good in the past too. So I am sure, but we have to be careful, I think, also for too much inbreeding. Makes the horses a little bit crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to talk about movement. And again, you know, we talked earlier on about the fact that you look at your bloodlines, but then you look at the horse in front of you. I worry that we're losing true movement in our Arabian horses. And I don't see a lot of good movement in Europe, Australia, or America these days. That's just my personal opinion. But I guess I wanted to hear what your views are about movement when you're selecting a breeding. I love the story about you when you first saw Extern, and and that horse was an amazing show horse with terrific movement, and he's passed that on. But I just wonder whether we have stallions these days that have that same prepotency for movement, and you know, that they're conformationally correct, that they give that movement. So again, could you just talk a bit about movement in your breeding program and what it means to you?
For me, it's movement, of course, is very important. And I was judging the nationals in Poland this year, and I was really happy, impressed that they still move unbelievable. But then I asked how they train them for the movement. They don't train them to move. The horses were training themselves. Every time they have to go to the field, they run to the field. So they get a super development. Yeah. And then I heard from the trainers that the first thing they learned was moving in hand before the standing. So also what we see in the ring is not only because of the breeding program, it's because the horses has been trained too much in the stand-up, and that they get too much respect for the trainer, that they maybe are scared to move, and they get a bad habit. And sometimes you see them in freedom in the farm, and then they move like hell, and they come in the hands of the trainer, and then they don't move like we would like to do. So I think we have to work on our trainers too, to teach them. Yeah, and I believe this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've all seen it, that there's been many good horses we've judged that haven't moved because they've been intimidated by the handler.
Exactly.
Yeah. Generally, can I ask you, I want to ask that question again though, but generally, do you think we have the mixture right with our breeding across the world? Are we, you know, are we breeding more good moving horses or not so many good moving horses these days?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think generally it's less, because the Krabbet horses were good movers, Polish, Russians were good movers. I think what we do is the whole refinement, and maybe the whole refinement, because you get the whole structure, the bone structure, and if that is refined, it's less place to put muscles on. So I think it's the whole breeding program is maybe going a little bit in the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too refined, and then less place to attach the muscles.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
When you tell me this, yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Christine. I think the next question was, just any advice, and we've touched on a lot of things now, but any advice for new breeders that are starting out? And I'll go back to what I said earlier. You started out with 1 acre of land and 2 horses. If a breeder came up to you today and they you wanted to give them some advice, what would it be? What are some of the things you'd say to them?
The breeder, what I think is very important, and still we have luckily breeders like that started and they really want to be a good breeder, is that to work themselves in the stables as much as they can, working out everything, do what I did also. So you learn how horses are. This is very important for me, to learn how a horse is, how he reacts, and how they grow up. And yeah, working hard, studying a lot, it's very important. Go to all the seminars you can follow, read everything in the books about it. Don't mind to ask if you don't know. I remember I was struggling once many years ago with the strains. I didn't understand. I had a book about the strains, but I didn't understand how to handle it. And I was so lucky that the judge came judging him, my show that I do for the charity, and his car was broken down. So I had to bring it to the garage, and he had to stay a whole day with me. And this was the luck of my life because I told him this. And in 5 minutes, he showed me how to understand it. Something I was struggling for 3 years. So you see,
Yeah,
that sometimes you have to be patient too. But it's, of course, it's not always, you have terrible nights. You have sometimes colleagues, you have to work with the horse. It's not always so nice. It's hard work. But if you really love it, it's you accept everything. That's and you're happy at the end. That's so.
Yeah. Some of the things I heard you say tonight, Christine, was that you know, that you wanted to develop your own type or your own bunch of brood mares. You know, so I guess for a younger breeders to have faith or confidence in where they want to head, but I think also some of the messages were make sure you surround yourself with good brood mares and try and improve on those, I guess. And I guess it's how not, we have a term here being stable blind, not to
I know what you mean.
Yeah, not to think that your horses are perfect. I mean, that's a hard thing for an owner or a breeder to do, is to acknowledge that perhaps this horse is never going to be quite right, and you then have to move it on, sell it, or get another type of horse.
Yeah, I always tell to my students or whatever, you must be positive when you judge a horse outside the home, but in your home you must be very negative. Otherwise, you will never improve your breed. And my staff always said that when we look at the babies or whatever, they give me a presentation of my foals. I always say what I see is wrong. And my husband get nuts of it. He said, you always see the wrong things. I say, yeah, but I have to learn my staff how to look at it so they know what I do to improve, because it's good if they can learn from me. But some people are the opposite. They only do good things about their own horses. And this is not good. It's not even stable blind. I don't know what it is, but it's not good at all. You just have to see your horses as they are. And there is no horse perfect. You have just to see with what you can live and what you cannot live. There are luckily it's no perfect, because then the breeding was finished. Yeah. But for me, it's very important when you are judging, look for the good points in a horse. And when you're at home, look for the points you can improve. This is very important. But that doesn't mean that you must not be happy with that horse. That's different. But you must know, okay, this I have to prove in the next generation.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. That's good advice. I appreciate that. Christine, we're just about at the end of the interview, and I guess one of the questions I always ask our judges or breeders is about what legacy they might like to think they're leaving behind. You know, what has been important to you, and what do you want to be remembered for, either as a breeder or as a judge? What is your contribution to the Arabian horse world, or what would you like it to be?
For me, what I would remember is that I love the horses for the horses and for the breed, for the Arabian horses. Also, I think honesty is for me very important in my life as well, to my clients, as judges, whatever. I am a hard worker to get my goal. I can be very stubborn, so it's okay if they accept that. So I don't mind this, but for me the goal is important, not the way how do you go it, not I mean, don't see me in the wrong way. I will not do everything to get my, I will do everything to get my goal, in the good way, in the acceptable way, not by tricky things or whatever.
Yeah.
But hard working is very important, and if you love your horses so much, you don't feed it as working. It's a pleasure. That's I always said, sometimes we are servants for our horses, and
Yeah.
this is I just love the horses, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Christine. Well, look, as I said at the start, on behalf of the Australian Arabian Horse Society and our Judges and Officials Committee, I just wanted to thank you for sharing your knowledge tonight, a bit about judging and also your breeding program. It's been terrific. I think everyone will learn from what you've said. I've appreciated your honesty as well, Christine, so thank you for delving into some of those issues. We wish you all the best with the coming season, and more success for Jardin Moravians, and more good judging for you as well. But thank you again, Christine.
Thank you very much, Shaham. It's my pleasure. And everybody who has a question always can contact me. It will be my pleasure to help them if I can. So that would be lovely.
Okay. Thank you, Christine. And
Thank you.
as I said, good night and thank you.
Yes, good night to you too. And thank you very much.